The first light of dawn barely touched the forest floor, shrouded in a thick blanket of mountain mist. Noah Carter stirred from his sleeping bag, unzipping the tent flap to greet the morning chill. The scent of damp earth and pine filled his lungs, a smell he had come to associate with peace, adventure, and discovery. As a wildlife photographer, this was his church, and this morning felt different. He brewed a quick cup of coffee over the camp stove, the hiss of boiling water briefly masking the eerie silence around him. It wasn't unusual for the mountain to be quiet, but this stillness had an edge, tense, expectant. As he took a sip, a low, guttural growl rolled through the trees. Noah froze. It wasn't the deep, booming roar of a bear, nor the yipping chatter of coyotes. This was something else, soft, yet primal, controlled, curious. He put down his cup and reached instinctively for his camera and a lightweight telephoto lens. Within minutes, he was moving quietly through the underbrush, boots cushioned by a carpet of pine needles. The sound grew clearer as he neared a dry clearing ringed with brittle brush and skeletal trees. Moving slowly, he crouched behind a fallen log, raised his lens, and what he saw stopped his breath. In the center of the clearing stood a young bobcat, no more than 6 months old. Its fur bristling, ears flattened, fangs bared in a silent snarl. Surrounding it were 3 adult cougars, each sleek and muscular, eyes locked on the trembling feline in the middle. Noah's heart pounded. He knew the statistics. Cougars, also known as mountain lions or pumas, are apex predators. Adults can weigh up to 130 pounds. With lethal grace and speed. A bobcat, especially one so young, stood no chance in a confrontation. The largest cougar, likely the dominant one, took a slow, deliberate step forward, her tawny coat shimmering faintly in the morning mist. The bobcat hissed and backed away, only to find another cougar closing in from behind. This was not a hunt born of hunger. This was territorial, a lesson in dominance. Noah raised his camera, but his hands trembled. This wasn't just a shot for his portfolio. This was a tragedy unfolding in real time. Part of him wanted to shout, to throw something, to intervene, but he knew better. Interfering could get him killed, and even if he distracted the cougars, the bobcat might not escape. Then, something unexpected happened. The smallest of the cougars, a lean male with a notched ear, growled and lunged at the bobcat, but stopped short, paw swiping only air. The bobcat didn't flinch. It stood its ground. Noah blinked. Was that bravery, or resignation? Noah's breath caught as the smallest cougar lunged again, closer this time. The bobcat hissed, retreating a few shaky steps. Noah knew he couldn't just stand there. Instinct overrode caution. He dropped his camera gently onto the forest floor and reached for his backpack, gripping it firmly in both hands. He stood up tall behind the log, heart hammering in his chest. Then, with all the force his lungs could muster, he shouted, "Hey, get out of here!" His voice cracked the silence like a rifle shot. The cougars froze, golden eyes snapping toward the sudden intruder. For a moment, The forest was locked in a breathless stalemate. Noah lifted the pack above his head and waved it, stepping out into the open with exaggerated, deliberate movements. "Go on, get!" he bellowed again, his voice echoing through the trees. The largest cougar, the female, let out a low, guttural growl, warning, not fear. Her muscles tensed. For one terrifying second, Noah thought she might charge. He could see the weight of her body shift slightly forward, like a spring winding tight. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He just stood there, firm, unyielding. And then, as suddenly as it had started, the tension broke. The female cougar flicked her tail, huffed in annoyance, and turned away. The two others followed her lead, casting wary glances back at Noah as they melted into the misty undergrowth like shadows. Only when he could no longer hear their padded footfalls did Noah lower his arms. His entire body trembled. His shirt clung to him, soaked in cold sweat. The bobcat remained in the clearing, frozen in place, eyes wide. It looked back at the forest where the cougars had disappeared, then turned its gaze to Noah. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. Noah took a cautious step forward. "It's okay," he murmured, more to himself than to the cat. The bobcat didn't flee. Its body remained tense. But it didn't run. Slowly, uncertainly, it began to edge toward him. Its movements were cautious, wary, but not hostile. Every instinct in Noah screamed not to move too quickly. He dropped the backpack to the ground and crouched low, reducing his silhouette. The bobcat stopped, sniffed the air, and blinked at him. "You're all right now," he whispered, his voice softer. "They're gone." The little feline took another step closer, then another, until it stood just a few feet away. Up close, Noah could see it was thinner than it should be, ribs faintly visible beneath its mottled coat. A faint scar traced one flank, likely from a past encounter. Tentatively, the bobcat sniffed his boot. Noah held perfectly still. Then, as if coming to some internal decision, the young cat sat down. Not relaxed, but not fleeing either. It had chosen to trust him. The silence between Noah and the young bobcat stretched long and heavy, yet strangely comforting. The cougar threat had passed, but the damage lingered, in the cat's cautious posture, in its heavy breaths, and in the tremble beneath its fur. Noah slowly reached for his jacket and held it out like a blanket. The bobcat flinched but didn't retreat. With careful hands, Noah wrapped the small body in the heavy fabric, lifting it gently into his arms. It didn't fight. It didn't growl. It simply leaned into his warmth, its body limp from exhaustion. Back at his camp, the mist had lifted slightly, though the chill remained. Noah laid the bobcat down on a fleece-lined sleeping pad near the fire pit. He poured warm water into a bowl and opened a packet of dried venison jerky. Tearing it into bite-sized pieces, he placed them beside the cat, unsure if it would eat. Then he examined the wounds. The scratches along its flank weren't deep, but they were raw and inflamed. Using a clean cloth soaked in warm water, Noah cleaned the cuts, whispering soothing words. The bobcat hissed softly at first but didn't try to escape. "You're tougher than you look." "Huh?" Noah murmured. He found a roll of gauze and gently wrapped the wounds, improvising bandages from his first aid kit. Afterward, he sat back, watching the small creature. It licked at the venison, nibbling cautiously, as if still unsure whether this was real. Hours passed. The sun rose higher, warming the air, but Noah stayed close. He didn't take photos. He didn't check messages. He simply watched over the little survivor, keeping the fire alive and the bobcat safe. That night, as the stars emerged in the darkening sky, the bobcat curled into a tight ball beneath Noah's jacket. For the first time since their encounter, its body was still, not alert, not trembling, but truly at rest. Noah leaned back, listening to the crackling fire. He hadn't planned for this. He came seeking wild beauty, raw nature, and perhaps a perfect shot to sell to National Geographic. But what he found was something far rarer, a fragile thread of trust between two creatures from different worlds. Looking down at the sleeping bobcat, he smiled. "Brave," he whispered. The name felt right, not just for the defiance it had shown in the clearing, but for the trust it had placed in him, a stranger, an intruder in its wild home. He watched Brave's sides rise and fall in rhythmic sleep, the faintest purr vibrating through the night air. Tomorrow, he would contact a wildlife rehab center, get the proper help, but tonight, he would guard this tiny heartbeat of the wilderness. Hope had claws, and a name. Morning sunlight streamed through the trees, casting dappled shadows over Noah's tent. Brave was healing, slowly but surely. His limp had faded, and his appetite had returned with vigor. But something lingered in the young bobcat's eyes, a searching, unsettled glint, especially during the quiet dawn hours. Noah noticed it first when Brave would sit by the edge of camp, staring into the distance, nose twitching at the wind. The cat wasn't just recovering. He was waiting for something, or someone. That's when Noah made the call. 2 hours later, he stood at the ranger station with the staff of the local wildlife conservation group. Maps were unrolled across the table, digital tablets lit with drone footage, and markers tracked recent cougar and bobcat sightings. "He could have been separated during the attack," said Kara, the lead biologist. "It's not uncommon for bobcat mothers to scatter from danger and return when it's safe." "Then we need to find her," Noah replied. "He's been through too much to lose her now." The team mobilized quickly. With Noah's detailed account, they pinpointed the location of the clearing. That afternoon, they set up motion sensor trail cameras around the area. Small drones equipped with thermal imaging would sweep the forest canopy at dawn and dusk, prime hours for feline movement. For a week, Noah and Brave remained near base camp. Every day, Brave grew stronger, more alert. He no longer needed warmth or constant care, but he still stayed close, always looking toward the ridge line, as if drawn by memory. Then, on the 7th day, Kara burst into Noah's tent. "We found her." Noah bolted upright. The camera from the northern trail had captured her first, thin, scarred, her fur matted from the rain. A mother bobcat. She had returned multiple times to the same clearing, circling, sniffing, watching, waiting. When the drone confirmed it with infrared, a lone feline matching her size and movement patterns returning daily to the same spot, it was clear. She hadn't abandoned Brave. She was searching for him. That evening, Noah sat by the fire with Brave beside him, the soft crackle of pine wood blending with the gentle hush of wind through the trees. "She's alive," he whispered. Brave's ears twitched. "Tomorrow," he said gently, placing his hand near the cat. "We bring you home." Brave didn't understand the words. But something in Noah's calm voice, the steady rhythm of his breath, made the young feline press his body close, just for a moment. It was almost time. The forest clearing looked much the same as it had on that fateful morning, but now it held a different energy. The air was lighter, the sun gentler as it filtered through the trees. Noah stood quietly at the edge, hidden from view, his camera slung over his shoulder but unused. Today wasn't about photos. It was about letting go. Next to him, Brave sat alert, his ears perked, nose twitching toward the breeze. There was a tension in his body, but not from fear. It was anticipation, recognition, hope. Across the clearing, a rustle. Then she appeared. The mother bobcat stepped out of the underbrush, slow and cautious. Her ribs were faintly visible beneath her fur, and one ear bore a fresh nick. But her eyes were alive, sharp and scanning. When they landed on Brave, her posture shifted. She froze. Then, she chuffed softly. A low, throaty sound. Brave didn't hesitate. With a burst of energy, he bounded across the clearing, his small body a blur of muscle and instinct. The mother didn't move at first, but as Brave reached her, she lowered her head, and they touched. Noah's throat tightened. Brave rubbed his head against hers, purring with a sound Noah had only heard once, when Brave first fell asleep by the fire. The mother licked his face, over and over, grooming the matted fur as if trying to erase the days apart. Her body curled protectively around him, and he pressed into her warmth. They were whole again. Noah stepped back slowly, not wanting to disturb the moment. His eyes blurred, and he blinked hard. A single tear rolled down his cheek. Then another. He didn't wipe them away. He opened his weather-worn field journal and wrote his final entry. Hands shaking. Saving one life doesn't change the world, but it changes the whole world for that one life. He closed the book gently, letting the silence speak. It was over. Or maybe it was just beginning. In the days that followed, Noah's photos, some from before the attack, some of Brave's recovery, and finally one distant image of the reunion, circulated online. He hadn't meant to share them widely, but Kara insisted. "People need stories like this," she said, and she was right. The post went viral. Tens of thousands of people across the world read Brave's story, a tale of fear, trust, survival, and reunion. Messages poured in, of hope, of gratitude, of inspiration. Conservation groups reported a surge in donations. Wildlife volunteers signed up in record numbers. A single act of courage had rippled outward. Noah didn't crave the attention. He had already received his reward, in a clearing, in a forest, where a mother and her child found each other again, where a photographer became a protector, and where a small bobcat named Brave walked back into the wild. Free.
Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please comment 1. And if you didn't, just hit like. See you in the next videos.